Hello everybody, and today we'll be taking a look at the 9-year-old AMD HD 8490. The 8000 series was an uneventful collection of 15 graphics cards that were essentially just the 7000 series relaunched under a different name. The main difference was that these were not intended for mainstream consumers and were only ever sold to OEM vendors. Due to this kinda scarcity, high-end models from this series can actually be quite expensive. Now, as much as I would love to have an HD 8990, I don't exactly have the funds for that. So for now, we're gonna settle for a more modest installation in the series. Officially launched on July 23rd of 2013, the HD 8490 was a lower-end installment of the lineup, offering basic entry-level performance. Really, it was just something cheap and easy that can be thrown into just about any system given its low wattage and low profile design. And that's just what they did with it. I was able to find a few online configurations that ship with this GPU, most of which seem to be workstation systems often paired with Xeon processors. Since most Xeons don't come with integrated graphics, the 8490 was only really there to function as a basic display adapter. Point is, it wasn't exactly designed for the tests I'll be throwing at it today, but I'm still going to try. The most popular consumer-level cards of 2013 consisted of the 700 series by Nvidia, the remnants of the aforementioned 7000 series, and the RX 200 series by AMD. Out of all of those, the 780 Ti held the crown for the most powerful single GPU graphics card, with AMD's R9 offerings following closely behind. The early and mid-2010s wasn't the best time to be AMD, so catering to OEMs with the 8000 series was a good way to still get their products into the hands of customers. Now, since the 8490 was never meant for intense usage, it didn't really need anything significant in the way of performance. Powered by the K-Coast graphics processor based on the Terascale 2 architecture, the 8490 came with a total of 370 million transistors built on the 40nm process. It also boasts 1 whole gigabyte of DDR3 VRAM clocked at 900 MHz, a 64-bit bus width, and a core clock of 875 MHz. With that came 160 shading units, 8 texture mapping units, 4 render output units, and 2 compute units, all with a mere 35-watt TDP. I also want to mention that this card cannot be overclocked without modding the BIOS. Yet, just to keep things at stock and have them perform how they were designed, I'm not going to be doing that. But most importantly, out of everything the 8490 stands for, it came with support for DirectX 11. Now, it wasn't full support, but it does allow the card to at least start some modern applications, including AAA titles. This, alongside its roughly $15 price tag on eBay, might actually make it a viable option for upgrading an old system with. Speaking of which, I'm going to be running this card inside an upgraded Dell ProDesk 400G1. With an i3-4130, 16GB of RAM, and a $15 OEM SSD, the 8490 should be the system's bottleneck in most tests. The operating system I'll be using today is Windows 7 Ultimate Edition because the drivers for this card are only supported up to Windows 8. So, let's see how it performs. But before we get into the benchmarks, take a moment to leave a like, comment, or consider subscribing because you made it this far into the video, which means there's a decent chance you actually enjoy the content. Now, let's see how far we can push this card. The first test I'm going to be running is a user benchmark to make sure that the 8490 is performing how it should. However, I don't think we're going to have much to compare it against because I don't believe this graphics card is supported or listed on user benchmark because it's an OEM card. Well, that's an interesting sight to see. So it doesn't look like User Benchmark even realized that we had a dedicated graphics card. I mean, the processor performed well, the SSD worked, the hard drive did a heck of a lot better than it did last time, and the RAM did pretty alright too, but it didn't even detect the graphics card. But either way, the 8490 is right there and is working, so let's get into the gaming benchmarks. For whatever reason, the next game I decided to play is Rust, and it looks really just fantastic. Look at the tree, man. Look at the rock. It has like 80 pixels total. Currently, I have all the image effects turned off, the graphics as low as they can go with a render scale of 0.5, NVIDIA DLSS off because that's not going to help us in this situation, and a resolution of 1280 by 720. Pushing all those settings as low as they could go and making the game look as horrible as it does has only garnered us an average FPS of 29. Honestly, I think I've seen games that advertise mobile Rust that look way better than this. They let you run the game in 640 by 480. Oh, this is gonna be interesting. Now, doesn't that just put a smile on your face? A crispy, buttery smooth 44, 42, 47 FPS with a render scale of 0.5. Like, I didn't even realize there was a guy over there. Look at him go. You can barely see him. What is he doing? Does he have a gun? And I think that just about sums up the Rust experience. So the next game I decided to try to run on the HD 8490 is Beamng.Drive, which clearly is not going too well right now. I'm currently in 720p with all the lowest settings, but even still, we're only managing a frame rate of 15, 16, 16, 17 FPS. Honestly, you can play driving simulation games like this, relatively decently between 20 to 30 FPS, because not too much is changing from frame to frame. And you will get used to it with time, but I'm noticing input lag. I'm not noticing a lot of screen tearing in it. I mean, it is stable, it just has a really crappy frame rate. So I'm going to try to turn down the resolution a bit more to see what it takes to get this game playable. Well, I have good news, I think, but I got the game somewhat playable. I had to turn the resolution down all the way to 800 by 600. The GPU is very clearly the bottleneck of the system here, being pinned at 100% utilization while the CPU is at 70. Currently, I'm not even running the simplified physics in Beamng. That does give you a bit of a performance boost, but it makes it so that other parts don't collide with each other. Considering that the 8490 was not at all designed to do this and I can't really overclock it, it's not doing that bad of a job. Anyway, on to the next game. So, the next game I'm going to be playing is Counter-Strike Global Offensive. Currently, we're in 1080p with the lowest settings, and I can't lie, I'm actually very disappointed. I thought the card was doing a lot better than it is. I mean, I guess if you like playing games at like 27, 26, 32 FPS, yeah, you could play CSGO, but if you're looking for a competitive experience, or honestly even remotely enjoyable, this is not going to be it. I'm going to try dropping down the resolution a bit further, because in the current state, the HD 8490 really is not suitable for this game. So in resolution of 1280 by 720, we're getting about 15 to 20 more frames per second. The frame rate's a lot better, and I guess if you want to play 720p you can, but yeah, the 8490 is really not doing too well in this title. I genuinely expected it to be better. On to the next benchmark. The next game we're going to be playing is Rainbow Six Siege. I want to preface this by saying that currently we're at a 25% render scale and a resolution of 1024 by 768 with all the lowest settings, and honestly it's hard just to even navigate through the menus. But you know what? If I can still get a kill, then technically the game is still playable. Okay. Wow, there's a lot of stuff going on there, and you can see immediately as I started getting shot at and had to render, and you know what? I'm dead. I'm gonna blame that on the graphics card. All the smoke particles from the yellow gas, that really tanked the frame rate, or at least a little bit. See, like I bet this guy has at least a 1060. He knows what he's doing. He doesn't have to deal with that horrible little graphics card trying to power this whole game. But on the bright side, the teammate did clutch up the 1v4, so hey, I'll take it as a win. Now on to the next one. So the next game I decided to try to run is Skyrim Special Edition, and I got an interesting message when I opened the game that said that your video hardware was not identified and the video settings have been set for low quality. Honestly, even if it didn't know what the 8490 was, it probably still would have set it to low quality. So we're gonna run the game in that preset and see what happens. So I just loaded up my save, which is right outside of Whiterun, and immediately I'm only getting 11 FPS in low settings. I would have expected the 8490 to be doing much better than 9 FPS, even if we are in 1080p. Like, you can run Skyrim on some integrated graphics, and this is still underperforming. I'm going to drop the resolution down a bit lower. This is interesting actually. I turned down the resolution from 1080p to 720p and turned down a few more settings in the advanced options tab. But what's surprising is that we're seeing basically the same level of performance, maybe like 1, 2, 3 FPS more, which is an increase, but it's not much at all. From personal experience, Skyrim is a lot easier to run than games like Beamng.Drive, and given that that game ran playably but this doesn't, makes me think that something else is going on with this system. From my experience, running Skyrim is a lot easier than Beamng.Drive, and Beamng was able to run on this card. Either way, I guess you can't really play Skyrim on the 8490. All in all, I am wildly unimpressed with the 8490, more than I expected to be. It ran most of the games I tested horribly, the games it did run well looked like a Doom 2 mod, and some games it wasn't even able to start even though the card fully supported the required feature levels. Believe me, I tried looking into what could be causing the issue and spent a solid amount of time troubleshooting. My guess is that it may have something to do with the copy of Windows 7 I have, but your guess is as good as mine. Still, I hope to get legitimately playable performance in some games at least, but was let down by the card's lackluster performance. In some titles like Rust, we didn't even max out the card's VRAM usage, while the processor was pinned at 100% utilization. That poor, underpowered K-Coast GPU was not designed for what I put it through. Also, quick little tangent, but did you know that the GTX Titan released in February of 2013 for $1,000, just to be outperformed by the cheaper 780 Ti in November of the same year? I don't know, that's just something I wanted to mention because that would have sucked if you bought one. Oh, and we also have a community Discord server where we discuss a variety of topics. Link in the description. Support the channel, that's a great way to do so. If you have any questions or related comments, then leave them below and I'll be sure to respond to it. While you're at it, consider subscribing or leaving a like because it genuinely helps me out. That's about it. Have a great day. Bye.